Hello, my darlings. Let's have some pleasure this afternoon. Children of the Dust by Louise. Now, I just mentioned this in a preparation video that I had done earlier. And this is the most gentle guide for a child about nuclear war. If you've never read this novel, it's a very short read. There is 174 pages. It's a quick read. It's 174 pages. It is not a very long read, but it is the most gentle book, explaining to children what happens during a nuclear war, and or what happens before, what happens during, and what happens after, and what happens in many years after the bomb has dropped. And this is based in England, and it is based in Gloucestershire, and it's just beautifully written. I'll read the back to you. Everyone thought when the alarm bell rang that it was just another fire practice, but the first bombs had fallen on Hamburg and Leningrad, the headmaster said, and a full-scale nuclear attack was imminent. It's a real-life nightmare. Sarah and her family have to stay cooped up in the tightly sealed kitchen for days on end, dreading the inevitable radioactive fallout and the subsequent slow, torturous death, which seems almost preferable to surviving in a grey, dead world choked by dust. But then, from out of the dust and the ruins and the desolation comes new life, a new future, and a whole brave new world. £5.99. A fantastic young adult read. It's produced by Red Fox, and the first sort of preface goes, "For the children, that they may never know the dust." And I hope the children never know the dust. I hope no adult, I hope no living being on this planet will ever know the dust. We have Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the survivors from that who have known the dust. But let's hope no one will ever know what the dust is. It was first published in 1985 by the Bodley Head in Great Britain. First Red Fox edition, 1995, and this version is from 2002, when my first child was born, my daughter, my eldest daughter. So this book is 22 years old now. And it truly is the most beautiful story. And we start the beginning of the book with the girl called Sarah. It's a beautiful name, isn't it, Sarah? It was such a perfect day, a promise of summer, with cloudless blue skies. Swallows were nesting below the eaves of the caretaker's cottage, and out on the sports field, Year 9 were playing cricket and tennis. Everyone thought when the alarm bell rang that it was just another fire practice. But the first bombs had fallen on Hamburg and Leningrad. The headmaster said, and with a full-scale nuclear attack was imminent. Those within walking distance of the school must go home immediately. The rest should return to the main assembly hall and stay there. Sarah ran through a town gone mad with panic. The traffic had stopped, cars and lorries parked all along the narrow high street. Men and women, crazy with fear, looted the shops for supplies. Police sirens sounded, and on the housing estate they were tearing doors from their hinges to board up the windows. Sarah's school shoes pounded along the pavement, up the hill, past the district hospital, leaving the town behind. A stitch in her side and her lungs heaving for breath made her stop and look back. She saw the street spread out beneath her, the river estuary shining silver in the distance, white piles of the nuclear power station on the opposite bank, and the Cotswold hills beyond. She had to remember it. Gloucestershire, green in the sunlight, a blackbird singing, and the wind blowing warm through her hair. With all her senses, she had to remember it. All the scents and sights and sounds of a world she might never see again. The roadside was lacy with cow's parsley, and May had covered the hedges with sweet white blossoms. Cattle grazed in the fields, a kestrel hovered, and the woods were a-dreamy with bluebells. She heard a cuckoo calling through the silence. She heard the others running along the roadway ahead. Their voices called to her. Hurry up, you haven't time to stop. Sarah covered 2 miles in 20 minutes. Scattered houses marked the village outskirts, with Monday's washing billowing in the gardens. And over the hill the church bell tolled. Sarah's home was in a hollow, 2 renovated cottages made into one. There were lawns in front and borders bright with flowers, and an orchard at the back. She entered through the kitchen. Buster barked and wagged his tail in greeting, but she paid him no heed. She went into the living room, where her stepmother was nailing a blanket over the window. Is it true? Sarah gasped. Don't ask stupid questions, Veronica snapped. But the nuclear war was thousands of miles away. Hamburg was in Germany, Sarah said, and this was England. She could not believe that anyone would drop atomic bombs on England. They already had, Veronica informed her. The BBC had stopped transmitting a few minutes ago, and Radio Bristol reported London had been hit. Stay in your houses, the announcer said. Give me a hand, said Veronica grimly. Sarah helped her hump the mattress from the double bed and drag it downstairs. They took the spare one from the guest room and wedged both against the window, shifted the sideboard to hold them in place, and stacked the bookcase on top. It was what the radio announcer told them to do as protection against flying glass. Daylight came in through the open doors, but the room was dark, and Sarah switched on the light. Will Daddy be home? She asked. Use your head, Veronica retorted. Sarah bit her lip. Her father was teaching at Bristol University and would not have time to drive home, and Veronica did not mean to be unkind. She was doing everything she could to keep herself and the children alive, and she did not have time to think of Sarah's father. Gather all necessary belongings into one room, instructed the radio announcer. Seal the doors against nuclear fallout. The door to the kitchen still remained open, but Veronica sealed the door to the hall with sticky tape. There was nothing left for Sarah to do. In the gloomy light she saw tinned food piled in a corner, bowls and buckets filled with water, the camping stove and a gas cylinder brought in from the garage, half a sack of potatoes and Grandma's commode. The settee was piled with clothes and bedclothes, pillows and cushions, books and cups and saucepans, polythene garbage bags, Catherine's Barbie doll and William's Tonka truck. William and Catherine, who had returned from the village school long before Sarah came home, had made a camp under the dining table, draped with blankets and boxed in with mattresses from their own and Sarah's beds. They laughed and giggled and thought it was fun. And Buster was under there with them, yelping and barking in some rough and tumble game. "Get that dog out of here," Veronica told Sarah. It was a terrible thing to do. William screamed and clung to him. He was only 5 and did not understand. They might have to stay indoors for weeks, everyone shut inside the living room and never going out. They could not have Buster with them. They would probably have to eat his dog food, and they might even have to eat Buster himself. On her hands and knees, Sarah crawled beneath the table and dragged the dog from William's arms. "He'll be all right," she said consolingly. "He can catch rabbits, and it might only be for a little while. Mummy doesn't want him to wee on the carpet, that's all." She carried Buster outside and set him down, watched him frisk across the orchard. She had to remember. A fat cocker spaniel in the last bright moments of life. Sunlight among the apple leaves, a scent of wallflower, and the amassed colours of the polyanthus. She had to remember the larch plantation beyond the orchard wall, sheep bleating on the common, the church bell tolling, dong, dong, dong. And that's all I'm going to read you. As you probably worked out, we do have a nuclear bomb drop. And how Sarah's family survive afterwards is quite the stuff of nightmares. But it's written in a very gentle way so that a child will understand. What happens to Sarah's father? You'll have to find out, won't you? You'll have to read the book. But it is a saga of the ages. It covers generations of Sarah's family, because ultimately some members of the family do survive, and it's how they survive and what they have to do for survival. And it's quite amazing, really, how you do survive in terrible situations. And bearing in mind, this is a supposed adventure of a family surviving nuclear war and the generations that come afterwards. It is fantasy because we have no idea whether or not children will survive, will families survive. We just don't know. I'm of the belief that I don't think nuclear war is survivable, or if it is, then you must be in a nuclear bunker. And if you're surviving in a nuclear bunker, what exactly are you going to come out to? a world gone mad with radiation everywhere. If depending on how long you stay inside your bunker, I suppose will determine how long you survive out of the bunker. There is a good novel written, it's called Wool, and it's a silo saga. Oh, if I can remember the name of the guy that wrote it. Hugh Hoy, that's it, Hugh Hoy. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Hugh Hoy or Hugh Hoy. I believe he wrote the Wool. Wool. Hugh Howey, not Hoy. Hugh Howey. It's Silo of the book series. And I've been meaning to read these as well. So many books that I want to read. And they made a drama series out of it on Apple TV. Why do they have to have so many pay for TV? It's unfair. I want to watch it and I don't have Apple TV. I can't afford it, that's why. Well, I could, but I could think of the money being better spent in other areas, put it that way. Yes. So, dependent on how long you spend down in the bunker is dependent on how long you survive above the bunker. But yes, Children of the Dust by Louise Lawrence. It's brilliantly written. It's hauntingly beautiful, brutal, and beautiful. It's a real heartbreak of a novel, and it's written as it is a young adult novel, and I thoroughly recommend it. And honestly, you'd be doing yourself a treat. It is. It's not very long, I said. It's 174 pages long. That's right. And it should be in. It's a classic, or it will be a classic at some point in the near future, assuming we have a future and we don't end up ever knowing what the dust is. And on that note, my darlings, enjoy reading, enjoy all the books, and I will say what I always do: happy readings, darlings, and enjoy.